Time for some final assembly on the race truck. Gonna try to get the steering column, brakes. Let's see, maybe get the seat and the shifter installed again for the final time. And then probably start laying out some wiring. Perfect. I think this might work. If not, I'm just gonna blow a hole right through the floor. Whoops. Woo. Okay. See if it'll focus in. Got the shifter lever off the transmission. Stop, right there. Got the shifter lever off the transmission side. And then I'm gonna need a couple washers, some big fender washers to bolt up to the original bracket. And then what I'm gonna have to do is drill this out for this end. So I'm just gonna cut this off and drill that out. Hopefully right there, but I think I might need to do a little extension because I think this is going to be too short. So if we have to do an extension, that'll actually, you know what, that'll probably be easier. Cut this off, weld it, drill a hole. Got to go to town to get some fender washers and some other bolts. So I'm going to go do that and be right back. Okay, got the fender washers on there. Got that snugged up. It's not super tight. I cut off the ball and socket ear off the original shifter. And then here is the adapter for the B&M. Usually goes in one of these holes right there. But this shifter needs to be longer, so I'm thinking about, it's gonna be kind of redneck. I'm thinking about just welding that at whatever, you know, angle that needs to be there. And I think it's gonna work. I mean, let's be honest. It's gonna be under the truck and no one's gonna know. Who would know? I mean, come on. Okay, this is what I got done tonight. Got the steering mostly in. I got all the holes drilled for the bracket. The bolts are in there. Master's on, pedals in. Got the windshield in and the gasket. It really didn't fit that great. Like in this corner, you can kind of peel it back, but I mean, I guess this truck's not gonna be waterproof, so I shouldn't be complaining. While I'm waiting for some of the front accessory drives, I'm gonna start on the Terminator X Max. And I've already halfway kind of figured out where everything goes. So I'm gonna start laying some wire and figure out where the ECU is gonna go and then where all the wires are gonna go into the cab. Probably somewhere on the firewall. there's the injectors installed. 1 through 8. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ran it to the back of the engine. And then let's go to the next set of stuff. We got the main harness just zip tied to the transmission dipstick. It's probably going to get mounted on the firewall somewhere. And then I've got the ignition wire for the distributor, which mine doesn't have. So I think I'm either going to have to find an adapter or swap this out for a distributor, which I don't really want to do, but if I have to, I will. Coolant temp sensor. Replace that plug and put the Holly one in. Oil pressure is going to go down inside there, which that's kind of just flopping there. And then all the rest of these wires, let's see, we've got the map sensor, which will probably end up somewhere there. We've got idle air control, which is somewhere in here. We have got fuel pressure, which we can put an adapter and get fuel pressure from the Strader valve. And we've got throttle position sensor, which hopefully is going to work with my intake. And then we've got manifold air temp, which will have to go somewhere on the intake. And then we've got the O2 sensor wire hanging out there. It's going to go somewhere down back there. And then all of these, you've got to think this harness is for a Fox body, so it's going to be really long, actually slightly inconvenient, but we will make it work. Man, I could actually probably just go right under the floorboard and through the backside. I'm going to put a grommet in there later. Just want to make sure that all this stuff works. I don't think it's going to work. I think I screwed myself on that. I should have went with a 2-inch hole. Okay, I had to drill that more of a square, so I'll just get a grommet and cut that up till it fits. I mean, this wire almost takes up the whole hole, though. You can see where the wiring harness is gonna kind of live. This one's gonna get screwed here, and another one here, and then that harness actually looks really clean under there. And then, like I said, I'm gonna do some research on this distributor, because I might just change it out. Yeah, this kind of seems like it's going to be the easier thing to do. Injectors are on, temp sensors in, oil pressure is laying there. O2 is slung down the back of the transmission. Everything to do with intake stuff, manifold pressure and all that crap, all that's right there. I'm gonna have to get the intake mocked back up for some of these. I think I'm gonna have to change out some terminals though. Take a picture of the oil sender, change that out. And then, so all of this is ran inside the truck. And I think what I'm gonna do is mount this under the dash kind of like that. That way the computer is facing down, and then the wiring will go up and over the heater box, so it's kind of protected, and then route down to the computer. And then everything else, like the power, will come back up and probably down through the kick panel for the power harness, because the battery is going in the rear, and then the transmission harness will probably come up through there as well. Got most of the engine harness installed. We have got, let me turn some light on for y'all. We have got the Terminator mounted underneath the dash. The plugs are facing backwards, which is a little bit inconvenient, but it works. I've got the fuse mounted up there on the firewall for the main power, and you can see that the big harness loops around actually really nicely. It's gonna eventually get, you know, turned into there. And then all of my extras are in this corner. I'm gonna zip tie all that stuff together. And then I have a couple stragglers that I need to terminate. And then here is the main ground and power wire. Goes down the kick panel. Drilled a hole and put a grommet. Then goes up and over the frame rail to the back side over here, wherever I'm gonna mount my battery. I haven't done that yet. And then this is the trans harness, which I'm gonna worry about that next time. Also have the heater installed, the relay, and another fuse mounted right there. I'm trying to put everything where I can easily reach it, especially on a road trip. There's not a whole lot of room under the dash, and it's kind of filling up really quickly. Got the Holly dash to put in. I do have to get a, where's it at? I do have to get an extension harness for this CAN bus right here, but that's not terrible. Other than that, I ordered a distributor off of eBay that goes to a Fox Body Mustang with this style connector. Probably gonna mount the coil somewhere like that, maybe. I don't know yet. So yeah, pretty much the engine harness, the main harness is wired in, the computer's mounted, the harness is ran through the cab, power wires are ran through underneath the cab to the back of the cab. Next thing I'm gonna do after a couple parts get in is install the trans harness, plug that up, put some grommets where I need to put them, and this thing should be wired in. So I'm really hoping on the next video of this truck that we get to hear at least a crank, hopefully a fire up if I wired everything right. Shouldn't take too much besides, I mean, really I don't even need the trans harness hooked up. I just need to get the battery hooked up, obviously put the intake back on and terminate those wires. The TPS sensor comes with a plug. Obviously you got to repin the throttle body, throttle position sensor on that. No big deal. The map sensor, I might not even have to use this because hopefully I can just if I read it right, I could just run the vacuum off of this built-in map sensor on the Terminator, which would be amazing. That's supposedly for NA or nitrous setup, so if I go turbo, then I obviously have to switch it up. So hopefully I don't have to use that. This just needs to get repinned and plugged into the original intake tube because the Explorer doesn't actually have the intake temperature on the intake side. It actually just has it on the intake tube, which is fine. I'll just repin it. I think I still have the old harness, so hopefully I can make that work and look kind of cool. Oh, idle air. Again, same thing with that. I'm gonna have to repin it for the Explorer idle air control. And then we don't need fuel pressure. Focus. We don't need the fuel pressure hooked up. That's just another sensor you can run off the dash. I'm probably not going to get this fitting. I don't think it's going to work with the intake. I'll have to measure it and see how far this is off the intake. And then lastly, no, that's it. So we really don't have too much left on the harness except for mount the intake, terminate and repin some wires. Since the battery is going in the rear, I obviously have to redo this starter wire with the solenoid right there. I'll just rewire it and kind of make it flow towards the back. So hopefully the next video on this truck is going to be a fire up video. Hopefully I get all my parts in time to get this other one filmed. This Terminator X Max is actually for a Fox body Mustang all the way up to 97, I believe. This is a 97 Explorer chassis. So for the most part it works, besides I do have a distributorless 5-liter, which I just bought one off eBay. The oil pressure switch is going to get replaced with an oil 100 PSI transducer, and then that'll plug in right there. Not much I had to change, just some pins. Some of these pins on the Explorer to Fox body stuff is a little different, so as long as you still have your harness, you can hopefully save this and repin them. Haven't really looked at what it's going to take to get the transmission harness plugged in. Hopefully not a crazy lot. Let's see if we can get out of there. I can't see anything. I'm probably going to do that off camera just because it's dark and I'm crawling around underneath the truck. So far, it's about, I'd say about halfway wired in. I'm not even mad about the length of the wiring. It's a little bit long, but actually not too bad. With it coiled up underneath the dash, you're never going to see it. I was going to put it on the back of the firewall, but then there's like, you know, a 1-inch gap. And I was trying to keep it, for the most part, out of the water. And I think underneath the dash is going to be the driest spot on this truck besides the roof, which I'm not going to put the computer up on the roof. All right, guys, thanks for watching, liking, subscribing, and commenting. Hopefully this truck gets fired up on the next video if I can get the intake and the distributor in it. I don't need the trans harness hooked up to fire it up, but I'm going to try to get everything wired while everything's coming in the mail. All right, see y'all.